Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. It's that time of year to bring your amaryllis in for dormancy, and I'm going to show you how. So let's go. Amaryllis, also known as Hippeastrum, are not hardy here where I live in New Hampshire Zone 5B, and for that reason, they are typically treated as annuals. Well, you know me, I'm a budget gardener, and I'm all about trying to save plants, and that includes my amaryllis bulbs. I've been able to recycle or keep my amaryllis bulbs going for a number of years, and you can too. So even if you don't have any amaryllis bulbs, maybe this winter is the time for you to save your amaryllis bulbs and not throw them away at the end of the season. I have a number of videos on my channel that show the full process of what to do after an amaryllis bulb is done blooming. What I'll do is put links to those videos down below because I want to make sure you see the full process. The main focus of this video is to show you what comes next when it comes to my amaryllis bulbs that I've had out on my porch all summer long. They've been soaking up the sun, they've been getting a lot of water, I've been fertilizing them, but at this point they need to go to sleep. That's really important. The amaryllis bulbs need a period of dormancy, between 6 to 8 weeks of dormancy, in order for them to bloom again. And since it's the end of August, if you calculate it out, 8 weeks from now would be the end of October. And then it takes another 6 to 8 weeks to wake those bulbs up so that they can bloom sometime during the holiday months. And so when you think about it, it will take all of November into December. And hopefully by the end of December or sometime in January, my amaryllis bulbs will be blooming for me. So it's a critical time right now for me to go ahead and put these bulbs into dormancy. I can do it a few ways. I can go ahead and take this pot and just put it somewhere where it's cool and dark. That could be in my garage, that could be in my basement, and that location is going to vary on what space you have available where you live. So there are a lot of different ways to do the same process. You might have planted your amaryllis bulbs out in your landscape and you want to bring them in for dormancy. I did that last year, and you would want to go ahead and dig out those bulbs. So I had put a bunch of bulbs in this container pot temporarily during the early spring months. Well, I want to go ahead and remove the bulbs from the pot, and you don't have to do that. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and just take the whole pot the way it is and bring it in for dormancy. Or you might have amaryllis bulbs that you never brought outside and you've treated them as houseplants indoors during the summer months. Regardless, the process would be the same. You want to make sure you're giving those bulbs a period of dormancy. During that period of dormancy, the plant is dormant, meaning it's sleeping. You don't want to be watering it. In fact, you want it to become totally dry. You can keep it in its pot or container and you're just not watering it. Or you can take the bulbs out of the container and you can store the bulbs bare root. I prefer to do it that way, but do whatever method works for you. The key is you're not watering the bulbs during that period of time and you're storing them in a cool, dark, dry location. That location can vary depending on where you live. It may be your basement, it may be your garage. For a temperature range while the bulbs are dormant, you want to make sure that they're staying somewhere between 40 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking the bulbs out of this pot. I like to store my bulbs bare root, so let's go ahead and start that step first. And I'm just putting the soil inside of this container here, which, yes, it's a cat litter box, but it really doesn't matter what I use. The main thing is I want to take the soil off of the base of my plants here. Now I can gently just take the soil off of the bulbs. The roots have become quite extensive inside of the pot, which is a good thing. That means that the plants got their energy and food that they needed during the summer months, but now it's their time to go to sleep. And while I'm doing this, again, I want to talk about a few things. Where you live, you might be able to keep your amaryllis bulbs out in your landscape, but I don't have that option. So it's important for me to be bringing these bulbs in. And now is the time for me to be doing it because I want to make sure that I'm giving the plants their dormancy period that they need. Some people say that their amaryllis bulbs didn't bloom for them, and sometimes that could happen because the bulbs didn't get that period of rest. And maybe you didn't know this, but amaryllis bulbs are actually pretty easy to propagate. A lot of times they'll send off little baby bulbs off of the main plant. And I've been able to propagate my plants that way. There are a number of different ways you can propagate plants, and that's just one way. I prefer to leave the leaves on here. I feel like it's still feeding the bulb, even though we've taken it out of the pot. But some people also like to go ahead and cut the leaves off at this point. It really is up to you. I just prefer to keep them on here and let the leaves die back naturally. Once I've taken a good amount of the soil off the roots here, what I'm going to be doing is placing each of the bulbs inside of a cardboard box. Other than going to stores or even online to buy amaryllis bulbs, did you know another great place to get amaryllis bulbs is on Facebook Marketplace? I've seen people selling their amaryllis bulbs on there, so definitely be on the lookout for that. You might be able to get them for free or even cheap. Amaryllis bulbs can get very pricey. That's another reason why I try to keep mine going year after year. In fact, this little bulb here came off of a larger bulb. And this year, it helped feed it so that it got a little bit bigger. It might not bloom for me this winter, but that's okay. I'm going to keep it going. It's going to get bigger each year, and eventually it will bloom for me. I originally had each of these bulbs in smaller pots, but in the springtime, right before I brought them outside, I potted them up into a larger pot, and I'm glad I did because we actually had a very dry, very hot summer. So in terms of watering these, it made it a lot easier for me to just water a couple of larger pots rather than a bunch of smaller pots. And look at the roots on this one here. Part of the reason I wanted to make this video was to get you thinking about this coming winter. Even if you don't have any amaryllis bulbs, my hope is that this video inspires you to do the same thing that I do. Invest some money in an amaryllis bulb, but then keep it going year after year. I'm just going to fill up this pot with the soil here because I have one more pot full of amaryllis bulbs that I need to empty out. And I can reuse this potting mix for another planting project. So now I can empty this one as well. And by the way, some places will say to wait for the leaves to turn yellow before you put the plant into dormancy. But when you think about it, the plant needs 6 to 8 weeks of a dormant period. So I don't want to wait for the leaves to turn yellow. They will turn yellow naturally on their own now that I'm taking them out of the soil, or now that I'm putting them in a cool, dark, dry place and I'm not watering them anymore. I love experimenting with different things, and getting an amaryllis bulb to come back for me year after year is just such a fun thing. I really enjoy that whole process. You may have a lot of questions about what comes next after the plants are done with their dormant period. Definitely check out the videos in the description below because it will answer all the questions that you have. I'm guessing this was probably also a small offset or a baby bulb, and look at the roots on that. What a wonderful looking bulb. I will tell you, I am going to be placing these in my garage for about 3 days or 4 days. The reason is, just in case there are any insects or bugs that are on here, I want them to come off. And then after that, the bulbs will go to my basement. My basement is about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And I will check on the bulbs after a number of weeks. And once I start seeing that these leaves are turning yellow, at that point, I can go ahead and cut the leaves off at the base. I don't want to cut too close to my bulb. I don't want to break or hurt my bulb, but I'll be cutting them right at the base, and that's it. And the roots will eventually become dry as well. If you wanted to right now, you could go ahead and trim these roots off. Again, I like to just leave them on here, and as they naturally dry off, I will eventually come in and I will cut the roots right back. And there they are, tucked into the box. They'll stay in my garage for about 3 days, and then they will go to my basement. Once the leaves start to turn yellow, I can go ahead and cut them back. Once the roots start to dry up, I can also cut the roots back. They will stay in the basement for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then I will start waking them up. And it's that simple. That's all I do when it comes to getting my amaryllis bulbs ready for dormancy, for a period of sleep. Definitely follow along. I'll show you my next steps when it comes time to waking these guys up, and then all the aftercare involved with amaryllis bulbs. I hope this video motivated you or encouraged you to try to get your amaryllis bulbs to return for you year after year, especially if you live in an area where amaryllis are not hardy. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them down below. Also, let me know if you have success getting your amaryllis bulbs to come back for you every year, and if so, what is your process? Maybe you do something different. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.